shooting again. Here they come to the flag. Photo finish. How awesome was that?
How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to another post-race edition of Out of the Groove. I am still shaking after that one. I remember last year, a lot of folks laughed when Dale Earnhardt Jr. said Atlanta Motor Speedway was the hottest ticket in NASCAR. I think everyone who doubted him owes him an apology. What a race. That's it. That's the video right there. I guess we can talk about the other wrecks and big moments in this race. I guess we can talk about the winner and other top finishers. I guess we can put this thing on the Groovy Gauge at the end of the video. But I think we all know more or less what that score is going to be. Now, in all seriousness, let's break down the Ambetter 400 Atlanta Motor Speedway second points race of the 2024 NASCAR Cup Series season. Finally, the Cup Series gets a break with the weather. Our first Sunday race of the year. Third time is the charm. The weather out there looked beautiful in Hampton, Georgia. Crowd looked beautiful, and boy, they got to see themselves a fantastic super speedway style NASCAR Cup Series race. Let's begin with the finish, because I know that's what everyone's itching to talk about right now, but we'll get to the other big moments of the race in due time. 3 wide, side by side, inches apart, inches ahead of one another for the win. We literally got this Cars meme in real life. Another one of those fantastic Atlanta finishes. Where else would this happen? Fox ran that great package before the race commemorating Kevin Harvick's win in 2001. That was a photo finish, one of the greatest finishes in NASCAR history. I think this 3 wide photo finish deserves to be in the same conversation. I'm not ready to sit here and say this is the best finish in NASCAR history, but it's up there. It would like to formally request the Academy's consideration. Let's break down what happened in the final mile or so of this race. Ryan Blaney out front. Team Penske was fast. Team Penske aligned cars were extremely fast all afternoon. Suarez getting a strong push on the outside. Kyle Busch getting a strong push from the damaged Bubba Wallace on the inside. Somehow manages to find a middle lane, squeeze through there heading into turn 3. I don't know how he got that done. I literally stood up in my living room when Kyle Busch found that opening. Bubba got tight, so really from the center of 3 and 4 to the finish, it was 1v1v1, every man for himself. And Daniel Suarez, riding that high line of momentum, bested the 8 car by, I don't know, this much. I think the official time difference between first and second place was 1/1000th of a second. It literally does not get closer than that without being a straight up tie. Just incredible edge of your seat stuff. Let's break down the storyline. So close once again for Kyle Busch. Back-to-back super speedway style races, drafting tracks to begin the year. Kyle Busch has had one of the best cars, I think, in both races. He managed to come home 12th last week. It's a podium finish today. Combine that with a podium at the Clash, and Kyle Busch is off to a very solid start to 2024. Ryan Blaney, the defending series champion, he's come out on the good end of several super speedway style photo finishes in the past. Go back to his championship run last fall. Talladega beat Kevin Harvick by this much. This time around, though, he's on the wrong end of it, misses out by just a few inches. Then Daniel Suarez, the winner of this year's Ambetter 400 at Atlanta Motor Speedway. This is a hell of a story. We talked about it in the offseason. Daniel Suarez is arguably under more pressure than any other active NASCAR Cup Series driver this season. He regressed in 2023, went from winning and making the playoffs in 2022 to going winless last season, missing out on the playoffs entirely while his teammate continued to find success. Suarez had to watch over the past few months as his team, Trackhouse, signed not 1, not 2, but 3 more drivers. 3 drivers who within the next couple of years could very well be candidates for a Trackhouse Cup Series seat. This is a make or break year for Daniel Suarez. He had to win a race and he had to make the playoffs. In my opinion, 2 weeks into the year, more than likely he's accomplished both of those things. Now, that's not to say he can just sit back and relax the rest of this season. No, the pressure is still on, but knowing he'll more than likely be in the playoffs at the end of this year is a huge weight off of Daniel Suarez's shoulders. Congratulations to the whole 99 team. Shoot, they were involved in that lap 1 crash, that took out several contenders. The 99 was at least nicked in that incident. They battled all day. Suarez was separated separated from his Trackhouse teammate Ross Chastain. Didn't matter. He gets the win. Huge, massive victory for Daniel Suarez. It's amazing the difference 1 inch can make. Oh gosh, please don't take that out of context. Oh, and did I mention this is the first win for Suarez with his new crew chief Matt Swiderski? Remember in the offseason, Trackhouse sent Travis Mack to Colleague, and Colleague sent Matt Swiderski in return. So hey, what a way to start the 2024 season for this new duo. I took so many notes tonight. There are so many drivers that I believe deserve a shout out. First, though, I want to look back at several of the big wrecks, the most notable incidents, the high or in some cases lowlights. Let's start there. I want to break those down. I mentioned lap 1. This race got off to kind of a sketchy, kind of an ugly start with a big pileup a mile and a half into the 400-mile event. Todd Gilliland trying to be a bit too friendly, trying to let his teammate Michael McDowell move up to the outside lane, stacks things up. Austin Dillon gets turned. Alex Bowman caught up in the crash. Big damage for Noah Gragson. Christopher Bell's car was hurt bad. Luckily for all three of these drivers, they had good runs at Daytona a week ago. Noah Gragson scored a top 10, Christopher Bell scored a top 5, and Alex Bowman finished second. So today hurts, but last week softens the blow a bit. Josh Williams, though, finishes outside the top 30 with a wrecked race car. His Colleague Racing tenure is off to a terrible start. Between his, 2 Cup starts, if you include the Clash, and his 2 Xfinity starts, Josh Williams is yet to score a top 30 in Colleague equipment. Just terrible luck for Josh Williams, but this lap 1 crash was great luck for Joey Logano, who qualified on the front row for the second week in a row, but was forced to not only start at the rear, but serve a pass-through penalty under green for wearing an illegal glove during qualifying. Fox showed it. He had some extra webbing, he was almost wearing like a catcher's mitt, so he could put his hand up in the window to deflect more air, help get, a thousandth of a second better lap time. I have no clue. That is illegal per the rule book. I saw Bozy on Twitter actually shared, I believe, a paragraph from the rule book that explicitly states that all racing gloves need to have the fingers and thumbs separated. So 22 team broke the rule. They paid the price, but caught a break with this early caution. They got their lap back almost immediately. Midway through stage 2, this spin did not bring out a caution, but Michael McDowell, who won his first ever NASCAR Cup Series pole award this weekend, locked up the brakes coming to pit road under green and collected Daytona 500 champ William Byron. Both drivers cycled out off the lead lap as a result of this incident, but McDowell with his fast front row motorsports Ford managed quite the comeback, still finished inside the top 10 in 8th place. Byron finished 17th. Back to Joey Logano, between the penalty, the comeback, leading a bunch of laps, he was quite the story the first 2/3 of this race. Unfortunately, his chapter came to an end on lap 160, the very end of stage 2, when he drifted up the track, trying to make a block, got a little tight, squeezed Chris Buescher and himself into the outside while Denny Hamlin piled in. Heavy damage to Logano's Ford. He finished 28th. It's been a rough start to this year for Joey Logano. He's had arguably the best car in all 3 races, including the Clash. Top 3 for sure in all 3 races, but he's got almost nothing to show for it. Remember at the end of the Clash, he got into it with Ty Gibbs, got roughed up, finished 4th. Daytona was racing for the lead with 10 to go when he got clipped in the big crash. And today, again, racing up front, this one was perhaps more on him, another big crash. Tons of speed, very few points for Joey Logano. I hope that doesn't come back to bite him later this summer, or especially when the playoffs eventually start. Side note, looking back at this crash, shoot, look how hard the 11 piles in. That car's gotta have damage, right? Either going to the garage or at least spending some extended time on pit road, right? No. Denny Hamlin restarted inside the top 5 the moment they went back green. These cars, man, they are tough. Well, unless you brush the outside wall with your right rear, then you're probably breaking a toe link and going multiple laps down. Moving on, lap 199, we're in stage 3, the final stint at this point. Chase Elliott gets spun out off the front bumper of Ross Chastain. The reason this incident is worth mentioning is because both Ross Chastain and Bubba Wallace, who was side by side with Elliott at this point, were racing for the free pass position, trying to get back on the lead lap. Chase Elliott, kind of just an innocent bystander, gets pushed around by the one who's being extremely aggressive. aggressive. Shocking, I know. But it's worth mentioning that Chastain and Bubba eventually got back on the lead lap and both finished inside the top 10 tonight. Chastain 7th, Bubba Wallace 5th. Even Chase Elliott, who got spun out there, had damage from an earlier crash, still finished 15th. Very respectable. Lap 220, we're in the home stretch. Brad Keselowski gets loose, spins out, collects Kyle Larson, Corey LaJoie. LaJoie had a top 5 at Daytona last week. I'm sure had high hopes coming into Atlanta. Kyle Larson, he has now finished 30th or worse in 4 of the 5 Atlanta Superspeedway races. And oftentimes these crashes are no fault of his own, like this one, just caught up in the 6's mess. I feel for Kyle Larson because you can tell he's gotten better at these drafting type tracks. The results just have not caught up yet. And Brad Keselowski, man, he was fast today, though I'd say overall RFK Racing has been underwhelming these first 2 races. The drafting tracks have been their bread and butter the past couple years. Haven't seen much of that this season so far, and now Brad Keselowski is sitting on a 100 race winless streak. I still think there's a great chance he snaps it at some point this year, but gosh, triple digits. That's a daunting number. The racing tonight was insane. Stage 3, 3 and 4 wide routinely, a 4 wide pass for the lead. Look at Austin Cindric here, who won stage 2. Look at this move he made. Nerves of steel. So much great racing. Chase Briscoe was a ton of fun to watch in the closing laps of this race until he went just a step too far. 20 laps to go, tried to make a 4 wide move. There just wasn't space there. He gets clipped by Denny Hamlin heading into turn 3, crashes hard. Keeping cool under pressure is an intangible skill that is very hard for these young drivers to learn. And I hate to say it, but I think Chase Briscoe is earning himself a reputation. Go back to Indy in 2021, racing for the lead, although he was under penalty, spinning Hamlin out. 2022, Bristol Dirt wipes out Tyler Reddick. Charlotte wipes himself out, both times racing for the win in the final laps. And now this. You could just tell Chase Briscoe was feeling antsy. Doesn't get to race up front and contend for many wins these days, so when he had that opportunity, it just seemed like he didn't know quite how to handle it. Hopefully, as he continues to get more of these opportunities, eventually he'll figure it out. He'll learn to keep his cool under pressure, race within himself, take what the car is giving you. Those were some of the big moments, some of the big wrecks, the highlights that I wanted to mention. Now let's take a look at some of our top finishers, many of whom I've already mentioned. Austin Cindric ran a fantastic race. There were times where he too looked a little over aggressive, but he managed to win the second stage, I believe just the 3rd stage win of his career. Comes home 4th. Shoot, even when Joey Logano fell out of contention, the other 2 Penske teammates held strong, worked well together, maintained track position for the most part, and both got top 5 finishes. Bubba Wallace with damage comes home 5th. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., a quiet night, former Daytona 500 winner, he gets a 6th. I mentioned Ross Chastain. A speeding penalty under green flag conditions put him a lap down. He managed to eventually work his way back onto the lead lap, rallied for a top 10. You know, now that I think about it, I think Kyle Busch also got hit with a speeding penalty that same cycle as Chastain. He came back to finish 3rd. Wow. 2nd week in a row, Kyle Busch has been able to overcome mishaps on pit road. Last week it was the pit crew's fault. This week, I guess it was Kyle's fault. McDowell won his first pole, won the first stage, comes home with the top 10. That's huge. Front Row Motorsports, man, that speed is legitimate. I can't believe I've gone this far without hardly mentioning him, but Todd Gilliland ran damn near the race of his life tonight. You won't see him listed here because sadly he, I think, had a flat tire, maybe broke a toe link at the very end of this race. He finished 26th, but Todd Gilliland led the most laps tonight. At one point in the middle portion of this race, he was out there on an island by himself, surrounded by NASCAR Cup Series champions. He had Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr. surrounding him, and he held his own, was slicing and dicing, making moves, leading laps, pacing the field. Todd freaking Gilliland, race of his life. It's a shame it didn't end well for him because he deserved a great finish tonight. Front Row Motorsports, man, I think we've all underestimated them, largely because we didn't realize this Penske alliance, this enhanced Ford partnership. We didn't realize that was happening so soon. Like, if I had known before Daytona that Front Row Motorsports was going to be a tier 1 Ford team this year, I probably would have put McDowell in my playoffs before the season started. I know we've only seen them at super speedways so far, but I've been very impressed by the raw speed out of both Michael McDowell and Todd Gilliland. Las Vegas, Phoenix. We've got Bristol and Coda coming up. Let's see what these cars look like there at more traditional racetracks, but I'm highly encouraged by what I'm seeing from Front Row Motorsports so far this year. That Tier 1 program, that Penske Alliance, seems to be paying dividends early on. I want to give Harrison Burton a shout out as well, finishing 11th. Last week was horrendous, getting caught up in that lap 5 crash in the Daytona 500. He actually got a piece of the lap 1 crash tonight. I panicked for a moment. I felt for him. Damage wasn't too bad. They rallied, they recovered. He raced in the lead draft most of the evening, gets an 11th place finish. Another driver like Daniel Suarez, who I believe is on the hot seat this year. I don't think he needs to win a race and make the playoffs like Suarez needed to, but Burton needs to put together some great finishes and needs to show progress throughout this season. Tonight was a great step in the right direction. I'll give Kaz Grala a shout out as well, finishing inside the top 15 in Rick Ware equipment. Remember, he's running, I think, 25 races this year, so most of the schedule, but not quite full time. There you go, some of your top finishers tonight at Atlanta. This race was unreal, man. I'm finally starting to calm down and breathe a little bit. Man, those final 5 laps had me out of my seat. Well, no, I was on the edge of my seat, but then like I said, when Kyle Busch made that 3-wide move on the white flag, I got up. I couldn't believe it. I feel like there were many moments tonight that if you clipped them out of the broadcast and showed them to a non-NASCAR fan, you would convert them. You know what I'm saying? You would bring them over to the stock car racing side of things. A lot of fans and drivers love to rave about old Daytona before they repaved it 12, 15 years ago. Obviously, the draft was still huge. You saw a lot of pack racing, but with that older surface, handling was way more important. The pack would sometimes get broken up. You could argue that in some ways the drivers had more control ultimately over their running and finishing position. We now see that kind of racing at Atlanta Motor Speedway, in my opinion, and it is glorious. Let's put this race on the Groovy Gauge. Boom! All right. That's right. The Groovy Gauge this year is presented by my friends at Electric E-Bikes. Head to electricebikes.com to learn more. You can click the top link down in the description below. The weather will be warming up soon. Great chance to get outside, enjoy your brand new Electric XP 3.0. Let's talk about this race. Does this race deserve a perfect score? I used to hand out perfect scores a bit too willy-nilly, I think. It's been a long time since I gave a 100 on the Groovy Gauge. That lap 1 crash was kind of ugly. Race was a little long, maybe a couple of wrecks that could have been, maybe should have been avoided. Great crowd out there though. Nice to have some good weather finally for a change. 3-wide photo finish for the win with those storylines, with everything at stake for Daniel Suarez. I think I'm going to do it. I sound like a cartoon character. 100% on the Groovy Gauge. Gosh, someone go back and check the tape. When's the last time I gave a 100? I don't think I gave any in 2023. Maybe I'm forgetting one, but it's been, I think, at least a year and a half since my last perfect score. Atlanta Motor Speedway. Another one of those fantastic Atlanta finishes. I think it's earned it. 100% for me. What do you think? Down in the comments below. What would you give the Ambetter 400 on your own Groovy Gauge? Whew, I'm still trying to catch my breath. I even thought the Fox broadcast was pretty good, at least for the Cup race. I think for the most part, they've taken the sport seriously this year. Kevin Harvick sounded more smooth, more fluid, more comfortable this week than I think he did last week. Once again, I think my only real gripe is the number of commercials, which isn't any different than it was, 20 years ago during NASCAR's heyday. I just think in the modern day where we have skippable ads, ad-free streaming services, we as consumers are used to less advertisement. So seeing the same number of ads over a broadcast like we saw 20 years ago is now jarring. I think we've changed. The broadcast hasn't really changed. We've changed. Now, I would argue that Fox, NBC, they should change with their consumers, come up with new, creative, less disruptive forms of advertisement, but I digress. That did not take away from the viewing experience by and large tonight. I don't think any wrecks happened under commercial break. There was one that happened during a side-by-side. So at least the big moments, Mike Joy, Kevin Harvick, Clint Boyer were there to react in the moment with us. So even the broadcast, not bad whatsoever. I even liked Mikey's grid walk at the start of the show. I even thought his grid walk was solid. He took a few moments with Ryan Blaney, talked about his father. It was good stuff. Yeah, I just feel good. Man, what a rush. Heck of a race. Thank you all for watching. Leave your comments down below. What did you think of tonight's race at Atlanta Motor Speedway? Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. We talk NASCAR every day, every week throughout the entire year. We recap races every Sunday night. So if you're new, you're in the right place. Hit that subscribe button. Huge thank you to my Patreon supporters as well. There'll be lots to talk about this week, I'm sure. Stuart Haas keeping their fingers crossed. Potential penalties coming down the pipeline. Oof. Stay tuned, folks. Lots of good stuff coming your way here over the course of this season. I'll catch you in the next episode.